Hey, Christine.
Hi, Jenny.
Welcome. I'm so happy that you can join us today.
I'm excited to be here. It's Wednesday. I'm wearing yellow.
Thank you. We're doing the rainbow, so Wednesdays are always yellow. So everyone, please post anything yellow that you see or that you're wearing, and mention me at dotherainbow.com. I'll do a quick intro, and then we'll move it over to Christine. So Christine and I met in New York, I think in the East Village at a storytelling event.
Yeah.
Right? Like many
years ago.
I don't know if you were famous then, but you're famous now.
I'm super niche famous, Jenny. Super, super niche.
Well, in the era of post-social media, I think super niche is where everyone wants to be.
So right. Isn't that what Andy Warhol said? Everybody will be super niche famous someday.
Oh, God, we're living it. So, quick intro. Welcome, everyone, to Founder Design Thinking, episode 15. The goal of this podcast is to find more than 10 unicorns, founders, design thinkers like ourselves. I'm Jay-Z, like the rapper, and I help founders get to product market fit. Go to founderdesignthinking.com to become featured on this podcast, get coaching on finding customers and design thinking, or use my software to help your startup. But that's too much about me. Christine, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gentry. I am a high school English teacher at heart. My day job is training teachers in the NYU teacher residency. But my very vibrant side life is a secondhand styling, circular fashion fun on my Instagram. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So I'm Dress Up Saturday on Instagram. And I love that you have that in your little runner so folks can check it out.
Let me put you on the stream. You can share your...
Yeah, so this is my little Instagram page, and it's small but mighty, and it started actually as a pandemic thing. Way back, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, this started back when we were in sweatpants, working from home for weeks on end, and I think that was really great for some people. And it was really, really bad for me, like a classic ENFJ, like I was struggling not being able to wear real clothes. So I started this and then interacting in these vibrant Facebook groups, which I'm sure we'll talk about later in our conversation, to really just like have an excuse, right, to wear real clothes at least once a week. And it was always on a Saturday. So that's what this became. And then, of course, now that life is open again and we're going out and about, I just kept it going. So every Saturday I post an outfit from a secondhand clothing find, and I especially like to feature brands that I love, which I'm sure we'll talk more about too.
Yeah, so during COVID I went all white, like I just had white t-shirts and white athletic leggings. And after COVID, Laura and I started to do the rainbow because we were so tired of the sweats. So for you during COVID, I think this is the question, like, why did you become an influencer? Like, why all these colors?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just click on one of these as an example. Yeah. So you can see this is a Saturday when I had no plans, right? I say this is the first Saturday with no plans in 8 weeks, but got dressed up anyway, obs, right? So I think that's still going to be happening. And then, of course, my dog. This is Macy Hush Puppy Gentry, who might show up in our conversation on my lap at some point too. But to answer your question, the COVID thing for me, it was like I have always loved clothes. I've always loved them. I grew up super poor. So thrift stores were where we got our new clothes, right? And I didn't know when I was a young child that was anything to be ashamed of. Like, I loved the thrift store. It was like this. I grew up in Garland, Texas. So it was this giant concrete box filled with just rows and rows of clothes. And the owner had this little chow chow mix, and it would run around the store. And I remember like feeling like I was on a treasure hunt with my familiar, like looking through all of these racks of clothes. And they had a little dressing area that was just like a curtain at the corner, in a mirror leaning up against the wall. And then of course, in my late teens, early 20s, I started to realize that was not cool, right? And started to yearn for these name brand clothes and shoes that my parents could never afford. And then I as an early adult, a teacher, I couldn't really afford either. And so I would buy very small amounts of really nice clothes. And then this magical thing happened, which was I figured out there's this whole online universe of people selling secondhand clothes, right? Because I was always grossed out by the idea of the clothing industry, especially like the fast fashion industry, and how much waste and carbon footprint we make when we use clothes like as these disposable things, right? Or just mass produce clothes and aren't able to move them off the shelf or whatever. That's always bothered me. And so, God, this must have been a New Year's resolution 5 years ago, maybe even more. I made a resolution. I was like, I'm not going to buy any more brand new clothes. Like everything I buy will be secondhand. And I also at the same time implemented a 1 in, 1 out policy from my clothes. So if something comes in, then I have to sit with the clothing that I have and decide what's going to go out to make room for it. And then I'll sell or donate, right? That thing that I've decided to move on from.
Yeah, I think the day we reconnected recently was the day you got verified on Instagram, right?
I can't remember if it was that day, but yes, sure. I believe you.
And so I think it's really important to talk about like secondhand, because I also love thrifting and I love being able to buy all these like sequins and crazy colors and not really do it at like $1,000 a pop, right? Like the risk is so low because it's inexpensive. But I think what's really important is you're talking about the disgust of buying fast fashion. And people are always like, oh, thrifting, that's so disgusting. Someone wore it, it's dirty. And now you're talking about, well, it's much more disgusting to buy fast fashion.
Well, I'm not sure if I would use the word disgusting, but I definitely don't like the impact of it. And I think that the way that society is constantly pushing the new, right? Like this season stuff, don't wear that, that's last season, or like make sure you're in the most contemporary looks, right? It's just this like societal pressure to just buy more and more, which is like classic capitalism, right? And so like I've never been into that stuff either, partly because again, I grew up in such a way that it wasn't a possibility. But now I'm much more inspired by the creativity of finding the old, right? And like marrying it with something else that might be old, right? And like coming up with a look that makes sense to me and not necessarily what the world is saying that I should be wearing or doing, right? And so this term, when you ask me about the influencer, like it's always kind of sat kind of weird with me. Like I don't love that word. I think again, because society, like that word in society means like somebody who like gets paid to promote something, right? Or somebody who's given free things in exchange for the promotion of those free things. And I have certainly been given beautiful and lovely gifts by brands that I love, and I'm happy to talk about that. But that was not why I started the Instagram. And I would never take a product I don't actually love and promote it, right? Because I've been asked to, or because I was paid to, or because I was given a gift, like every single brand that I tag on Instagram, the brands that found me through this page, like the three big ones are like Rothy's, Portland Leather Goods, and Mother Sierra. Like those three brands know me because I loved them already, right? And I was like constantly proselytizing on their behalf in real life anyway, right? And then was constantly tagging them on Instagram because I own their stuff and I love their stuff, right? So like, yes, I have influenced people. Like Lord only knows every human being who knows me probably owns at least one pair of Rothy's and probably has at least one Portland Leather Good bag, right? At least one Mother Sierra pair of earrings. But it was like a genuine love, right? And I would only promote the brands that I genuinely love.
Yeah, so it's interesting having marketers on this Founder Design Thinking podcast, because design thinking is all about catering to your users, but in a good way. A lot of coders will build something that they want to use, but then they don't know if anyone else wants to use it. And so in business, it's very helpful to cater to your users, but in art, that's kind of against artists' vision. So I am curious in terms of your followers, you know, do you ever not change? Did your followers ever inspire you? And I'll give you an example. So my friend led design at this startup called Book Club, and authors would listen to readers who wanted a character or a plot to go in a different direction. And then the author would be like, that inspires me, or like, no way, you know, I'm never going to do that. I can imagine Shonda Rhimes being like, I'm never going to do that. Like, she has a vision for productions, right? So just to summarize, do you ever change your look based on brands or followers?
I think I'm naturally influenced by the people whose outfits I love, right? So I'm really into color mixing and pattern mixing. And I feel like I was really inspired by some of the girls in the Rothy's Facebook group. And like they post their Rothy's outfit of the day. And, you know, I feel like they're making me more adventurous with pattern mixing and like this outfit, for example, like I probably would have gone like straight yellow, like all the way down. But now I'm like really into mixing yellows and pinks, right? So I have like this pink belt on, and I have right? I have like these like pink shoes, right? With this yellow. And this is also like a pattern mix, right? Like this is kind of giraffe with polka dots, and you know, always gonna tie in like the bag with whatever I'm wearing. And I just like the idea of wearing multiple colors or multiple patterns. You know, my partner Emily made fun of me where we were going to the Pride parade on Sunday, and I was wearing, like, I'll have to show you a picture, I'll pull it up, but I was wearing this like orange and white striped crop top and this like rainbow dress, and she was like, oh no, you can't like clash stripes. You know, like two different stripes, or that's like too clashy, that's too much. And I was like, no, it's perfect.
Well,
tell you it's perfect.
Everyone, Christine is giving you permission to mix the patterns.
Yeah, I feel like that the way that I've been influenced is just seeing people have a lot of fun with color and patterns, right? So I found that picture. Let me see if I can share.
Okay. And as Christine's looking for that picture, anyone in the audience, feel free to comment your questions.
Oh yeah, I would love that. So this particular photo is the
I don't see it yet. Let me add you to the stream.
Is the example of like the clashy, right? So like this is something I would say like a few years ago, I would never have worn these two things together, right? Because they don't look like they go together at all, but something was telling me like they were communicating to each other. And then like I like to pull the orange from that top, right? And you can see the orange stripe in the Rothy shoes and the orange hoops that I got from this local amazing woman. Harlem Hoops with a Z is the name of the business. So anybody who wants to support local businesses, she's got beautiful earrings. So that was just an example of like a pattern mixing situation that I would never have done in the past. That I love it. Really fun now. And I think that have been influenced by others who are, you know, braver than I used to be with color and pattern.
Yeah, I think in the Rothy's group that you invited me to on Facebook, I was surprised that there's like 100 likes for some photos, like up to 300. And, you know, as I started doing the rainbow, I realized that a lot of American women are super afraid of color. And they think they're gonna look like clowns, or they just think it's too much. They don't want to stand out. But in this group, I really feel like you do. Like I'm inspired by all the women who are wearing like all pink, you know, with like a touch of a green flower. And it is like permission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's more, I mean, there are like obviously different worlds that you walk through, like maybe the professional world, right? You've got like a more of a neutral palette or something like that. Although, to be honest, I love showing up to professional situations in bright clothes too. I want to be clear about that. But like, it's an expression of who you are, right? Like your clothes, that's one of the things that we project into the world. And I totally understand when somebody doesn't want to bring extra or unwanted attention and are afraid that an outfit might do that. But again, I think this plays into the societal pressures that I don't think are necessarily healthy, especially around like women and mores for women, behavior that is appropriate for a woman, right? Or professional, right? I like to problematize that word a little bit.
Yeah, let's problematize it. So we have a question from the UK.
I love it.
Dear ladies, do you ever have bad days when you don't want to wear anything, just curl up? What do you do when you feel down?
Totally. Oh my God. So this is actually tied into the whole reason why the Instagram began in the first place. Because I found myself, listen, everybody was struggling in the pandemic, especially at the beginning when life totally shut down. But I was finding myself in a really bad place, like getting like edging toward clinical depression bad, right? And I'm one of those people, like, if you dress for joy, right, like it might come. So it was very much about like color cheers me up, beautiful clothes that make me feel happy and pretty and alive, right? Like that, those things, like I find that they manifest if I dress for them. So I totally understand when some people are having a bad day and just want to be in sweats and no makeup, just sitting on the couch and just like feeling it. Like I get that. And sometimes we have to sit in our sadness and just feel the weight of it and find the edges of it. But for me, like if I'm able to get up, get dressed, get ready and go out into the world, I tend to feel better. So I try to push myself to do that.
Yeah. So in the Do the Rainbow groups, people really like noticing color because they're like commuting and their heads are down and no eye contact, just need to get there. And so suddenly their heads are up and they find like a fire hydrant or a picture of a mannequin, and it really lightens them up. So talk a little bit about like color, like
yeah.
Can
I tell you a fun little story? This happened less than a week ago. It must have been like 3 or 4 days ago. And she might even be here, this woman, Avril. So I went out and I was wearing this like bright, of course, this like bright thing. It was like a red shirt and this red and pink stripes, like thick stripes, skirt. And I get off and on the same subway stop. And when I get on it to go home, there's this woman and she goes, "I'm sorry." She's like, were you just at this train station like 2.5 hours ago? And I was like, yeah. She goes, "I saw you then and I wanted to say that I loved your outfit and I didn't. And I'm so glad." And then she's like, "And I'm so glad we're going home at the same time because I got to see you again and tell you how much I love your outfit." And we were like, we got on the train, we sat down next to each other. We talked the whole way up to the Upper West Side until she got off, had this great conversation about life and everything and color. Like she was also wearing these like bright colors and these things that like classically clash, but like she was totally pulling it off. And like, it was, her energy was in her clothes. And I feel like that's my goal on a good day, that I can say that too, right? Like my energy is in my clothes. I like walk the earth, bringing that energy that the clothes are bringing to me. And so like, I understand how cheesy that can sound, but like they also spark these moments of connection with people. Because clothes are kind of like walking art, we're like walking around each other all day and seeing different, especially in New York City, right? You're like seeing people pass you all the time. You're seeing creative clothing choices. You're like wondering what kind of person this is based on how they're holding themselves or carrying themselves or what they're wearing. And that's one of my favorite things about the city. And I love interacting with strangers. And I have so many great stranger stories that are sparked by outfits, like either something they're wearing that I comment on or something I'm wearing that they comment on.
What do you think about vanity? Like not all women look great in all clothes. And so
see, I don't believe that.
No,
I don't believe that at all. I think that they're absolutely, it doesn't matter what your body type is or your age or anything like that. There's absolutely clothing that would look amazing on you. Absolutely. So I would say if somebody's struggling with that, like let's chat. Like I would be happy to talk to you about different clothing options. It's got to be something you're comfortable in for sure, and feel pretty in. But like absolutely, human beings are beautiful, and it doesn't like you can absolutely find clothing that's going to make you look and feel pretty.
Can we talk about growing your Dress Up Saturday account? So you mentioned that, sometimes people stop you because they recognize you from your account.
Yeah, I would say it's probably not from just my Instagram. I mean, in the world of Instagram, I don't have that many followers. I think people recognize me from the Facebook groups. Like that's the Facebook groups for these brands, like particularly the Rothy's community, are pretty big. They're like, 50, 60,000 people who are in this one space because they love this brand and want to talk about it and show outfits wearing this brand. And same thing for Portland Leather Goods, very active Facebook groups. And so when you post often in those groups, you're recognized. So there was a time that there have been multiple times, but my favorite was when I was out to dinner with friends in one of those like COVID cabins, where you're like on the street, but you're like together in like kind of an enclosed space, and it had like this velvet curtain on the door, and there were these like submarine windows like between the cabins, so the people in the cabin next to us could see us through that window. And in the middle of dinner, this adorable girl, she pokes her head in through the velvet curtain and she goes, "I'm sorry, are you Christine Gentry?" I was like, "Yeah." She goes, "I'm in the Rothy's group. I just had to say, I love your outfits." I was like, "Thank you so much." So like when I say niche famous, I mean like super, super niche. Like if you love Rothy's, you probably know me. If you love Portland Leather Goods, you probably know me. The storytelling, like the oral storytelling scene is another thing that's really important to me. So people in the storytelling scene sometimes know me too.
Okay. That's awesome. We're about midway through the podcast. So I'm going to ask a question, and then there'll be another question, and then people can ask questions.
Great.
So you talked about some rules, like you have to get rid of something before you buy something. And I think we talked about how you start the morning with shoes. Like that's how you plan your outfit. So in the morning, when we're all like, "Oh, I can't get out of bed," or, how do you start to plan what you're going to wear?
Sometimes one of the things I actually love about Dress the Rainbow, is that the day has a color, right? So like when we set this talk to be on a Wednesday, I was like, "Oh, you can wear yellow," right? I like starting from anywhere. Sometimes there's like a particular outfit that I'm really excited to wear to a particular event. But I do like you're recalling correctly. I do like sometimes looking at I have my shoes set up, like they're like color coded. They're like set up in this beautiful like library almost. So I like sometimes just look at it and be like, "I haven't worn that pair in a while. Like I'd love to wear that pair," right? And then let's find either something I've worn with that pair before, or maybe something new, something that I'm starting to like pull. I used to be like really matchy with shoes. Like I would wear the shoes that coordinate really well with whatever the outfit is. And now I'm starting to move away from that and pull something small from the outfit. And then the shoe will be kind of a different thing. Or purses too, like my totes, right? I'll be like, "Oh, I really want to carry that pink tote today. Like, what can I pair with that?"
Yeah, and I really like that for traveling, because usually you just travel with one bag and one pair of shoes. So then it helps you pack, because you're like, well, everything has to match this. So
exactly, I have noticed that definitely. I've taken a lot of small trips in the last few months, and I've brought just one coat and one or two pairs of shoes, and then rotating outfits that match with both of them. The rules thing, though, if you want to circle back to that, I think that plays into part of the New Year's resolution that led to all of this, like the secondhand clothing fanaticism was related to waste, right? And just feeling kind of icky about the waste of clothes, and also having more clothes than one could even wear. And so there were a couple things I did. There were kind of these steps to the extreme measure that I ended up taking, which was no brand new clothes, right? The first thing I did was a New Year's resolution where I turned all my hangers around. Have you ever heard of this? Okay, so like on the 1st of January, if you turn all of your hangers backwards, and then as you wear things, you put them back in the closet right side.
Oh.
Right. So by the end of the year, you see just how many clothes you haven't touched, right? In like a whole year. And that's really telling, because you're like, wow, why do I even own this if I haven't touched it in a year, right? And so that's how it first dawned on me, like, I don't have that many clothes. I mean, granted, I live in New York City. It's not like we have a bunch of space, right? I don't have that many clothes relatively, but I have more than I'm wearing, which seems silly, right? So I counted my number of hangers, got rid of the ones that were like broken or mismatched. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is the number of hangers that you get. And anything that comes in new, you're going to have to make room for it by selling or giving away something else, just to keep myself, like, I need external forces to hold me accountable, right? I can't just be trusted to not take on new clothes. I have to have this external system. Like, I only have this many hangers, right? Like, somebody visited me once and put like a coat that was too heavy for a hanger, and it like snapped it. And I was like, you just cost me an outfit. Because I'm not going to buy any more hangers.
Wow. So how, like, when, for example, do you start with like the shopping spree, and then you go home and you're like, okay, I'm going to get rid of this? Or do you get rid of something, you're like, now I can go and shop?
I never go on sprees. When I buy things, it's like one at a time. So I'm in another Facebook group with this awesome group of ladies who likes to like trade clothes, like similar minded people, right? Who like to pay it forward when something's not getting worn. So I'll either be scrolling through Facebook and see a post from one of them, and I'm like, oh, I love that. I want to try that. And then I immediately start thinking, like, as it's being shipped to me, I start thinking about what's going to go, what's going to go. If this comes and it fits right and I want to keep it, what's going to go, right? Or I'll see something on Poshmark, right? I love Poshmark, or eBay or Mercari, right? I'll see something that I love. Or this has happened often. Someone will post a picture on Instagram or Facebook of a beautiful piece of clothing, right? And the magic of Poshmark is that I could probably find it, right? Even no matter what it is. So if they tag the brand, or I ask them, like, what is that? I'll jump on Poshmark, find it in my size. And then again, as it's being shipped to me, I'm like, okay, like, what's going to go? What's going to go? And then with shoes, it's easier, because like if a new pair of shoes comes out, shoes, I will not. I buy them secondhand if they're Rothy's, but if they're anything else, usually not. So that's like shoes and earrings, I'll buy brand new, and underwear. Just in case anybody out there. So I will, if I see a pair of shoes that I really like, then I just look at my library, right? Which is also an external accountability system, because there are only so many spots. So I'll look at my library and be like, okay, what's gonna go? If you want those, like, what's gonna go? Can't have them unless something's gonna go.
So you're saying my overflow closet is not helping?
If it makes you happy, Jenny, I love your overflow closet, but that would stress me out.
All right. Well, we've got some questions. Rachel saying, how would this be transformed into a drawer?
Ooh, yeah, I like that too. I do a similar thing, Rachel, with my dresser. It's not as strict, I guess, because there's a little bit of wiggle room in a dresser drawer. But I don't overstuff a dresser. So a great example is my sweaters, right? My winter sweaters belong in this one drawer of my dresser. And it's like maxed. So if I want another sweater, then I have a similar rule, right? So like, you gotta, and same for my coat closet, different set of hangers, but a permanent number of them, right? So if I want a new coat or a new jacket or a new sweater, I've got to figure out what's going to go. But I love the idea of being even more like strict about it, like having slots in a drawer and making it work that way. I like that a lot. And then we're getting some more love for the hanger idea. Oh, Depop, I don't know that one.
Yeah, Rachel, how do you compare Depop, which I think is European, to eBay, Mercari, or Poshmark? So I'm also do the rainbow on Poshmark, and it's been a couple of years. I'm an ambassador now. And so I used to think that I was just like holding on to the memories, but I actually just really like that someone else wants to pay for this item that I no longer value. Like, I like the idea that they're going to cherish it and they're going to wear it and they're going to be like excited to open it up.
Right.
Box.
Right. I have never, since my New Year's resolution, I've never thrown away a piece of clothing, except like a damaged, a rare, like damaged item. But if it's just something that I'm not wearing or something that needs to go on and live another life with somebody else, I will either sell it or I will donate it. Because I think it's really important to not create more waste when we have so much clothes. We have so much out there, like already, right? Like, let's see if we can be wearing things that already exist first.
And Rachel's saying Depop is more Gen Z, Y2K, better UI, cuter app. But Poshmark has more users, more sellers, and more products in general.
Yeah, I find Poshmark is just bigger. Like, if there's something I'm looking for, like, Poshmark probably has it, and the other ones might not.
I see. Rachel, you're posting to Depop and Poshmark at the same time. So Depop must be US as well then, if you're doing both. Do you have, Christine, do you have or anyone on the video chat, if you were to create a different app for like fashion or for reselling, what's like a feature that you'd want?
Ooh, I like that question. I like the idea, and this is kind of what you're doing, Jenny, but I like the idea of doing it by color. I like that a lot. Like, there are some colors, like yellow is just a very happy color to me. And I would love the idea that, this is kind of true on any, like a Poshmark, you can filter any search for a color, right? But I like the idea of the sales being curated by color, right? Or maybe the things that like run along the bottom of some of these sale sites where it's like, while you're looking at an item, it's like, you might be interested in this, like items that go with it, So it's almost like this AI might be able to pull this off pretty soon, right? Like, so it's almost like a stylist, right? So you click on one thing and it's like, oh, we think we got you, right? Like, it's an algorithm that figures out. Because if you scroll through my Instagram, like, you can kind of figure out, you know what I mean? Like, AI could probably scrape my Instagram and be like, I know exactly what you're into, and I can show you. I can scrape Poshmark or The Real Real or whatever for something that I bet you'd like. Like Amazon has kind of figured that out, right? Like, oh, you've bought this, and this, you'd probably be into this. Like, I think that's something I'm picturing would be a really cool space for the secondhand clothing sale market if they could figure that out.
Yeah. So in the data space, and I've talked to a lot of these companies already about data quantity and data quality and data science and AI. So the current models do not recognize brands nor cuts. Like, they don't know if it's a top or a blouse. Like, they don't know if it's a skirt or a blouse. And but they do recognize color and foreground and background. So that's where I think curators and influencers still gonna beat the algo. Like,
yeah,
I'm not worried about machines.
The human aspect of it. Yeah.
But I'm curious about how you position doing the rainbow. I've talked to so many women and interviewed them in surveys, and some of the most fashionable ones are like, I'm not going to wear the color you want me to wear. That would be infringing on my creativity and my kind of hashtag creator, like, authorship.
Interesting.
And so for us, it's like, well, it's just inspiration, and you get to see like other women and how they, and men, and how they like, match green to the yellow if you didn't feel like wearing yellow.
Well, there's also like a, and for anybody who's ever taught, I'm a high school English teacher, remember? So like anybody who's ever taught creative writing, there can be a lot of creativity sparked by restrictions, right? Sparked by rules. So the Do the Rainbow rules are not even strict. It's like a color, and there's a wide spectrum of like what that color could be. Like to me, that's not restraint at all. It's like, oh, wonderful. God, I have so much yellow. What am I going to choose today? Oh, I think I'll go with the polka dots, right? So I think it's just sparking creativity by giving you direction, right? It's not, I don't find it restricting at all. I think Rachel said something about trading that I think was really a really cool idea. I know people do that informally, and in the closet group, we do that. But remember back in the day in college, like when you used to bring like a garbage bag of clothes to a clothing swap party, and then everybody dumped their garbage bags and you'd all try on clothes and leave with other people's clothes. I think that could be a really fun way to try to replicate that virtually. That could be really cool.
What do you mean, to have like a virtual clothing swap?
Yeah. So like you dump your garbage bag, right, on your page, right? And then you create little groups. Like I'm just talking off the top of my head, but the idea that you're creating little virtual groups where you're like, oh, here's my garbage bag of stuff, and we're about the same size, and here's my garbage bag of stuff. And then we can like pick stuff from your garbage bag. You could pick stuff from mine, right? And there's some kind of like safety system in place where we can ship each other stuff in a way that makes sense.
I could totally build that. That's really
I love that idea. I would be totally into that.
All right. Well, I think we're at the close. So Christine, any questions for this community, or any like next steps that they should look forward to on your Instagram?
I mean, every Saturday, my dog and I will post a photo of something that's new to me. It's Secondhand, and the brands that I love will always be featured. And by the way, both like amazing brands, like Rothy's totally sustainable, circular fashion company, right? So I like to promote ethical clothing and accessories brands. Love color, love playing with it, love pattern mixing. So those are things I'll continue to play with on my Instagram, and would love to interact with people on there. So definitely follow, comment, send me a DM.
Is Rothy's circular fashion? Is it like a B Corp? Or
they take water bottles, right? So they use recycled water bottles. They melt them down and use that thread from those to create the shoe. And now they also have a recycling program for their old shoes, right? So you can bring your old shoes to the store and recycle them. It's really cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think this is it. I really appreciate you for standing up and talking about circular fashion and thrifting and secondhand styling. I think it's a movement. Well, it is a movement.
Sorry, babe, that's my dog. my dog's like, it is a movement. It is a movement. I would love for it to be. I am so passionate about it, and have become, I try not to be like super judgy about it, but it's something I just love and hope that I think if more people knew about it, I think it would be just even economically, it makes sense. The amount of money people spend on brand new clothes that lose their market value immediately, after you remove them from the store. So you can, if you're just patient, if there was, I remember this beautiful Diane von Furstenberg dress that came out, and I was more tempted than I had ever been since my New Year's resolution. I was like, this dress is so beautiful. Like, no one will know. I will just buy this one dress brand new, right? And break my rule just once. And I was like, nope, I'm going to sit tight. And I know in a couple months, it'll show up on Poshmark or the Real Real or something. And it did. And I got it for like a quarter, right? Like I waited, I think 2 or 3 months. And then I got it for less than a quarter of what I was about to break my rule to spend, right? So I think even just economically, even if we're not considering other ethical issues, I think it would be much more popular, a secondhand only closet, if folks knew how easy it is and how cheap it is to do.
Well, thanks, Christine. And everyone out there, founderdesignthinking.com. I have been and will be consulting on AI, how it can save you time and money, but not take over humanity. And we'll see you at the next podcast.
Yes, thank you all for engaging in the chat. It was really fun. And thank you, Jenny. I always love talking to you.
Love the yellow polka dots. Thanks, Christine. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.